Absolutely. And I mean, particularly during COVID, I think a lot of, I mean, my husband and I have been married almost 20 years. We moved states, there have been ups and downs, but you have to have open communication about it. I don't know what communication was happening in their marriage. We'll never know. But I really do think that Tom, Tom fooled a lot of people into believing his own bullshit. And that is very common when you see those who engage in white collar crime. And again, we see it with like Elizabeth Holmes in the Theranos trial. She was out there selling this $1 billion dream when behind the scenes, none of it was working. And she was still on stages and on the cover of magazines like Time and Fortune going, yeah, we've created this thing, but you know, it doesn't work, which is why she's on trial for it. And Tom, I think, was doing the same thing, this shell game. I think that this started before Erika came onto the scene. I think that I don't know what got him behind the eight ball debt wise, but there are cases going back decades where clients are alleging that they weren't properly paid. I think the investigation into what was going on with the State Bar of California will be very interesting. And we know the LA Times is digging into that question more because it allowed client after client after client to be victimized in this way and to have their funds stolen. But when he's getting billion-dollar settlements from the pharmaceutical industry, why is that not enough? Why is the tens of millions and sometimes hundreds of millions in settlements, why is it not enough? And where did the money go? He had 3 or 4 mortgages on the property in Pasadena. Like, where did the money go? Did it go? It didn't all go to the Chagall. Like, it's not all in a Cartier ring. This is decades of behavior that's catching up.
Yeah. And is the white collar mind normally, I just want more, I'd like a plane, or is it like, I am the best. I am God. I am one step below God. And is it more ego, or is it money? It's just pure
there's a lot of ego.
Money. Yeah. I mean, or is it both?
There's a lot of, I'm smarter than everybody, but I've also seen people just in the state courts that I was prosecuting that almost like gamblers, it's like, on this next one, I'll make it back and it'll all be fine and I'll stop. Like, on this next one, on this next one, on this next one. And I don't know if Tom was just ego or if it was he got behind somewhere and then was taking this case to pay this back case, which is why myself and others have referred to it as a Ponzi scheme, where it's taking the new money coming in to pay back the old money. When did that start? Because he never should have gotten behind. Money should have come in from a case, paid everything out and gone to the clients. But I think it was on the next case, it'll be fine. And we saw that in the voicemails to Edelson PC. And we saw that in other documents that I got the sense of constantly trying to catch up to the next settlement to try to pay it back. And I don't know when that happened. And then this arrogance of, well, I'm smart enough. Nobody knows. The judges aren't going to flame me. It'll all be fine. This is how we do it. He went to court with the Ruy Gomez family. He knew that they didn't get their money. He knew that he didn't have their money, dragged them through litigation and finally settled, and then didn't pay the settlement. I mean, the balls and the audacity to drag these people through everything that they've been through, then everything that they had to go through to try to get their money back from their lawyer, and then to get a settlement and then to not pay that either. I mean, that's a bit of a personality. That's specific.
That is really specific. I mean, and
there's a lot of ego
to be someone that I mean, that's the thing. Like, again, I'm not taking Erika's, I'm not saying this is woes, but can you imagine living with someone and if you really didn't know, just thinking this was like the pillar of the community and they were just evil times 20. There was like,
I mean, the pillar of the community on the covers of magazine, you're going out to dinner and the chief of police is coming up and saying hello. And that's also like your son's boss. And I think there wasn't, I mean, people are now saying, oh, we heard these rumblings. We saw Bethenny Frankel saying that. We saw Camille Grammer coming out and saying there were these rumblings that Tom had these issues. But also you have the people within the legal community not all knowing either. And a lot of them still saying this was still a well-respected individual in the community. And then as the lawyers, including his son-in-law, start jumping ship, you're like, oh shit, what's going on behind the doors here? So when you've got a legal community that also maybe heard rumblings, but isn't quite sure, I can't say 100% Erika was like his ride or die Bonnie and Clyde co-defendant, stealing money, laughing all the way to the bank. I think there's enough money coming in and enough publicized verdicts that she could have easily thought this money will never run out.
Well,
I
that
could
is the
see that
one
too.
thing that I've said a million times. It's not like your husband had a job for $176,000 at, with a suit and sat at the desk and you had 3 planes in your driveway. I've said this
Right.
all along. There was so much money there from the beginning. And whether it's used up or not, you hear Aaron Brockovich, which is what I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you just
Oh shit, that's a
there
big
from the
deal.
beginning.
Mhm.
So it's not like my husband goes to work and I saw the offer letter and this is his salary and I know just what he makes. Then he comes home at night. It was endless. It was like
It's
contingency
different.
judgments. Yeah.
It's different. And it's different than like the Judice case where you're just like, are you really doing contracting? Like, how much
Right.
contracting are you doing versus Tom Girardi getting, again, he had multiple billion-dollar settlements and gets 40% of that plus cost. But then also with someone like Jen Shaw, you look at it and she's like, business, business, business. I do an algorithm. And you're like, I don't understand what you do and where all this money is coming from. And you see the women in Salt Lake saying, I don't really understand where all money is coming from. At least with Tom Girardi, you can look at it and go, I understand where all this money is coming from. The biggest question with Tom Girardi is, I don't understand where it all went. Where the fuck did the money go? And that's the most confusing part in there. In the others, you're like, oh, I can understand why there was fraud because there's no way you're making that much money. With him, it's the loss of money that really I want to understand that. And I don't know if my curiosity will ever be satisfied and we'll know how all that money disappeared. I would love to see more from what his ex-wives have to say. I think they're probably smart in not speaking to the media, but I would love to hear what they have to say about all of this and how much they knew.
You think when all this is over, we still may not be able to say, we'll have a resolution, but we may not know where these just $80 million went or whatever.
I don't know if we will. I don't know if that's information we will get or we will have. Maybe. I mean, if Ron Richard stays on the case, it'll be on Twitter and we'll know everything.
That is very true. Well, not to get you into, you said you were in a Twitter spat with Ron Richard.
Oh, he doesn't always. I don't think he always loves me. He loves to correct what I have said about things. We don't always see eye to eye on things, which is fine. We're lawyers. Most lawyers don't see eye to eye on things.
I was just going to say many people in the Bravo world that have been on the show and many that haven't been on the show that you see on your TV aren't so thrilled with me every day. So,
and I think you're fabulous.
Thank you. So. Thank you. There's people on Beverly Hills right now, currently this season, that do not say good things about me. But that's a whole nother story. So
another story.
I mean, is Ronald Richard, just because we brought him up, is he, because Erika, we all know, has tried to get him removed and he's obsessed.
Tried to get him removed twice and is still on appeal with it.
Like, yep. Is he doing anything wrong with all this Twitter and Instagram and demanding that Andy ask certain questions? Like, I guess so far the judge doesn't seem to think so.
I mean, I didn't know about demanding Andy ask questions. Was when Andy was asking for questions, was he tweeting back like, ask this, ask that? Like, this is not your deposition.
Honey,
I don't know this at all.
He said, please,
tell
Andy.
Me.
He said, yeah, when Andy was like, anyone got any questions filming the reunion? Oh, Mr. Richard said, yeah, and then listed out a whole bunch of questions. Now he has gone one step further, which I'm not so sure that I agree with. Now he can come for me. Now that we've seen the trailer for the reunion, which everyone is, crazy. And by the time this comes out, we'll have seen some of the reunion. Ronald has actually tweeted us since saying, thank you very much, Andy, for asking my questions. I'm not sure how you get that from the trailer, but now Ronald has stepped in.
Interesting.
And said, thank you for listening to me, Andy, and for asking the questions.
Well, we've seen information. I haven't seen the questions Ron asked. I can't imagine that they're all that different from what a lot of the Bravo universe wants to know too. Did you know? What did you know? Those kinds of things. He definitely has inserted himself in a very at the forefront way. And we've definitely seen that grow his Twitter account and his profile. But we've also seen things that he's alluded to or leaked that haven't been accurate with regard to the Rinna clothing and DNA and all of that I personally don't care for. But when Erika tried to have him removed, the judge ruled very strongly in Ron Richard's favor. And the judge is like, no, I'm not doing this. There are things I wouldn't do if I was on the case that did not sit right with me, but they clearly, this is how he comports himself on social media. I don't like the way he's gone after Erika. It feels very personal, which is strange to me, because normally it's, hey, we're trying to get this money back from the victims. If anyone has heard anything or seen anything, and doing investigation online, Twitter sleuths are the best. They find a lot of information. I don't have a problem with the lawyer saying, do you guys know what this is? Or have you ever heard of this? Or have you guys seen this? But it's different than making fun of her mental health struggles when she's talked about being on Lexapro and saying, oh, well, she's an unreliable witness. It's different than, putting out the credit card bills online that haven't been in court documents that he and I disagree with about whether those are private financial records or not. They're her personal credit card bills. I think they're private financial records. And some of that stuff is just not done. I think the reason it sits particularly difficult for me is because the Girardi bankruptcy is showing the worst of a profession that can be great and also can be terrible. And I would like to see the best foot forward of all the lawyers in this case. And I think some of the personal attacks are just beneath it. It's like, why are we slinging mud at podcasters who are talking about this? Why are we getting into the weeds with some of this stuff when you're involved in the case? If he wasn't involved in the case, I wouldn't really have, go after Erika all you want, be personal all you want.